Kia ora whānau, good morning and welcome to episode 3 of Rants and Rambles. A massive thank you to everyone tuning in because your support means the world to us. Even if you don't agree with us, the fact that you're here and listening still means the world to us. So thank you. I'm just going to go and make a cuppa and then let's dive in. In the meantime, while I do that, I'm just going to replay this video right here.
The House is suspended until the ringing of the bells.
Wow. What a week. What did David Seymour and his supporters expect? David sat there looking like, he looked like a slapped asshole, for the lack of a better description. Barely even paying attention, he was more engaged with his phone than the whakaaro in the room. Even Brooke Van Velden manages to serve up more arrogance in her expressions than David did then. It makes you wonder though, does his confidence only shine in front of his own crowd and the cameras or a friendly media team? Okay. I'll give credit where it's due though. David Seymour is a master of spinning word salads. If he and Luxon use their verbal gymnastics for good, we might actually see a country where everyone truly has a fair shot. Instead, those talents are channeled into policy that prioritise greed over equity. Let's talk about Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill for a second. It's been pushed hard, obviously by Seymour himself, but also by people like Hobsons Pledge, as well as other right-leaning allies. This bill cherry picks treaty principles and reshapes them into something that's conveniently detached from the original context. And yet that's going to be democratic, that's going to lead to equality and equity. Yeah, that just doesn't make sense. But anyway, when David was questioned about this redefinition, he practically admitted in fact, this is his words.
Their point is that you've cherry-picked bits out to suit the proposed bill, right? Mm. But it's actually in context, and it is part of the letter to say that, and we saw it in the introduction, and I've got this here, which is what was part of our introduction. So you talk there about ka wanatanga katoa o rātou whenua. That's Article 1. But you don't mention anything else.
Well, of course,
in your proposed bill.
When you distill the principles of something, some parts are more important than others. There's no question about that. But ultimately...
Is it being selective though? You're saying that part is more important than the others. Did you determine that, or who determined what were the important parts of each article?
Well, I'm determining a proposal for New Zealanders to consider.
So you determined, out of the treaty articles, or tiriti articles, which bits to pull out?
Well, I think those are the salient parts.
Oh, really? So if you remove the context, of course, it changes the meaning. This entire bill thrives on the misinterpretation as well as cherry-picked things. And yet it's democratic. It's equality for all. I mean, I'm convinced that the people who are convinced of this have got rocks in their head. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be an asshole. But at the end of the day, how can you be so easily manipulated when all the facts are right there in front of you? Then, of course, there's David's supporting cast, Richard Prebble. Everyone is pushing the fact that he's an ex-Labour minister. But conveniently, so many people actually skip over his stint as an ACT leader afterwards. Then you got other people in the supporting cast of David Seymour, like Ruth Richardson. Now, we know Ruth Richardson's legacy includes the disastrous reforms of the 1990s, and the fact that that has still had a major bad knock-on effect to the country today. And then, of course, you've got other friends like Debbie Gibbs, chair of the Atlas Network, that organisation that's known for meddling in policies worldwide, always leaning against equality. Case in point, the article about the Chilean referendum's outcome. Chile's elites are creating another Latin America populist meltdown. Chile's elites. That word elites We've got that here in New Zealand. A lot of it is coming from David Seymour supporters. Here we've got Māori elites. Wherever Atlas Network seems to touch with this sort of indigenous stuff, it's always using words like elites. Don't believe me? Look it up yourself. And let's not forget Hobsons Pledge, of course, bankrolling their hateful rhetoric via platforms like the New Zealand Herald and the right-leaning platform NZ. They need this push because, frankly, their narratives don't hold up without this aggressive marketing, because they haven't done in previous decades, including before Jacinda was Prime Minister, and everyone seems convinced it was Jacinda that divided the country. People like Don Brash and Hobsons Pledge have been doing this for a long time. Let me give you an example of this aggressive marketing that Hobsons Pledge does. So, Kay sent me this snippet from Instagram where Hobsons Pledge recently posted a pie chart claiming that most Kiwis support the Treaty Principles Bill. Now, a classic case of visual manipulation. Bold colours to signal support, ominous red for opposition, and a conveniently underlined most Kiwis support Treaty Principles Bill. A quick glance at that tricks you into believing that it's true. This is where the feelings come in over the facts. But wait, there's actually fine print. The data comes from Curia, a private polling company with questionable independence after leaving the Research Association amidst the complaints that they were receiving. And Curia's majority is based on a sample size of 958 people. Out of how many millions of New Zealanders? The math is not mathing. And here's the kicker. This isn't just misleading. It is deliberate. A more honest tagline might read, most Kiwis who subscribe to Curia's $8 a month Patreon support the bill. Yes, their poll is paywalled, making it about as credible as running a political survey on OnlyFans. This is why we are constantly emphasizing stop voting with vibes and start voting with the facts. We cannot have our cake and eat it too. Voting with vibes has literally kept us in this bullshit merry-go-round circle that we all complain about no matter what parties we support. When we keep doing the same thing, we're not going to get better results. Now let's tackle another example of facts being pushed as true without really remembering or understanding possibly what is being read. And this example came from one of the live streams last week, where the claim that Jacinda Ardern was world touring while Kiwis were screaming for her help. Now, this person that made the comment, I did ask them for specifics, because critics often fumble or shift goalposts if they are not 100% certain in the facts that they are reading because it's something that someone told them. For example, this commenter pointed to a Wikipedia page about Jacinda Ardern's standard ministerial trips after trying to tell me that they will send a link to Vice and ABC about this and the article discussing it. Now, I found an article about Vice. Still not sure how she was world touring while the country was screaming out for help, even by that article. Now, there were several ABC articles, but in all honesty, I kind of didn't really go to those two ones. I just did some more digging around on my own on various different websites because that is what we do. And so far, even during that conversation with that commenter, and even now, international travel is a prime ministerial norm, whether we want it or not. I mean, hello, Luxon's in Peru at the moment, and it doesn't matter what the party is. It doesn't matter who's in power. It is a normal part of the process. Are we raising pitchforks for Luxon being in Peru right now? Some people are, but not everybody, and especially not the ones that keep pushing this narrative. This back and forth is emblematic of the larger problem that we have. Social media is an echo chamber of half-truths and emotional rhetoric, and yes, I know the irony of it when we're on social media trying to share this information, but that's because that is where the cesspits are. That is where the people are. It's far too easy to latch onto headlines and memes or bias polls without digging deeper, and that is the problem when we have a Kiwi laid-back lifestyle, because even looking for facts is too hard for a lot of people. I know that this is a topic I can go on and on and on and on and on about, but in all honesty, I'm just repeating the same shit. But what I will do is I am going to read the snippet from this book that I'm reading at the moment. Now, something that Kay has been researching actually led us to this book, and so for the first time in God knows how many years, I signed up to the library so I could get this friggin' book because I wanted to have a nosy about what the snippets were that she had come across, and it so far has been an interesting read, especially when you read about the parts of Hobson, William Hobson himself, which is what Hobson's Pledge is based off of, is that person. Now, it says in this book that is called Our Country's Story by K C McDonald. Now, just bear with the page noise because the microphone is on the book. So, meanwhile, the British government had at last taken action. Sticking to its principle that the Māoris were an independent nation, it decided to send an officer to persuade them to cede the sovereignty of New Zealand to the British Crown. The person chosen for this delicate task was Captain William Hobson, a naval officer, who had already in 1837 paid a visit to New Zealand to report on its condition to the government. Hobson was now appointed British consul, which is a name given to a representative of a nation in a foreign land, but if he succeeded in getting the Māoris to agree to become British subjects, he would then become lieutenant governor over the whole country or over whatever part of it had accepted British rule. It was intended that the new colony should be part of New South Wales, at least for a time, but Hobson's instructions made it clear that one of his principal objects was to protect Māori land rights. This was necessary because the rumour that New Zealand was to become a British colony had led to a rush of land buying, often of the most fraudulent description. Now, if we skip forward a little bit, now I'm not missing very much by skipping forward, because you are also welcome to look for the book yourself and read it yourself. We haven't finished the book ourselves. I haven't finished the book, and Kay's going to read it after me. But I have gotten through a fair chunk of it so far. And I wanted to read this particular part as well after that part because it gives you the context to this bit. Okay, so the treaty was taken to the far south by Major Thomas Bunbury and the HMS Herald. Okay, now Hobson, because of events shortly to be described, judged that the time had come to proclaim British sovereignty over the whole country without waiting for the return of the Herald. Accordingly, on May 21st, he issued two proclamations. By the one, he declared British authority over the North Island by right of cession, and by the other over the South Island and Stewart Island. In the latter, no grounds were stated. Thus, New Zealand formally became part of the British Empire. There has been much debate as to whether the method adopted was a proper one, and in particular, whether the Māoris fully understood. The New Zealand Company's officials and others who had land claims or hoped to acquire land were furious when it became clear that the government interpreted the treaty as recognising the property rights of the Māoris over the whole country. They argued that only land actually used by the tribe should be secured to them. So the question is, was that already a preconceived notion because of the title that Hobson would get for saying that Māori ceded sovereignty? Māoris didn't even have a word for that. So how can they cede something they don't understand? Especially when the interpreters are from the company as the British colony was referred to. That's like you being in a coma and someone coming to your bedside table saying, "Can I take your house, your wife, your children and all your money?" And you have no problems with it. Don't say anything if you agree. Oh, look, that person in a coma didn't say anything. Sweet! I just scored his house, his wife, his kids, his money, his car. Fucking sweet, man. That is not how it works. Yet the only people who seem to think that Māori did cede sovereignty, even in the politicians, in Luxon, I don't even know if he believes what he said. He just can't be seen to agree with anybody else. So I'm not even sure about him, especially with the narrative he's pushing now. But anyway, I will be discussing this book more as I continue to come across more things in it. I'm going to end it on this note. Challenge the narrative. Question the sources, especially David Seymour's ones. Stop voting based on vibes, because if we don't, this merry-go-round of misinformation will keep spinning, and we'll only have ourselves to blame, even if we don't vote for it, because at the end of the day, we are only as strong as the weakest in our society. Ngā mihi nui. And until next time, let's keep the kōrero going, with the facts, not the vibes. Love you guys.